Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Van Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. So come get some. CromCon. CromCon.
Madness Entertainment Group presents the Madness Comic Network with original programming and additional comic-related content.
Hey, we want to shout out to our sponsors, Daytona Beach Comic Con. If you are a fan of comic books, if you're a fan of comic book conventions, and if you like meeting comic book creators and getting comics and comic-related stuff, then you need to make your plans to attend Daytona Beach Comic Con. This year's show is September 9th and 10th. Silverline will be there, so you should make your plans to be there too. We'll see you there. If you like comics and find yourself in the Orlando, Florida area, doesn't everyone come to Orlando at some point in time to see the House of Mouse? But when you're here, you need to make it a point to visit Coliseum of Comics, especially the one on East Colonial Drive. They carry SilverlineComics, even a limited edition Coliseum of Comics version of our comics. So, when you go, be sure to ask for SilverlineComics and tell them we sent you. OCD stands for Orlando Collector Deviants. OCD, Steve and Trish, they're a family of geeks who promote geek things, particularly those around the Orlando, Florida area. They're big supporters of Silverline, and we think you should be supporters of theirs too. Go give them some love. If you are an independent comic book maker and you need to get your independent comics made, you need to look no further than Kablam Digital Printing. They print our books, and they do a bang-up job. They're not only trusted by Silverline, but many, many independent comic book makers. Head on over to kablam.com and see for yourself just how easy it is to have your comic printed by them. And tell them Silverline sent you.
Hi, this is Tim TK, host of That Silverline Show on Tuesday. Join us at 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Pacific every Tuesday night as we discuss pop culture and the joys of making comics.
Hi, I'm Barb Kilber, co-host of Silverline's Wednesday Wham. Join us each Wednesday night as we discuss comics, literature, movies, and anything else that may catch our attention.
I'm Roland Mann, and I host Silverline's Silver Sunday. Join me every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern as we make mine Silverline.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Silverline's Silver Sunday on this Sunday night, October 22nd. I am your host. I am Roland Mann, and I am here with regular new top troublemaker, Mr. Tom Mason.
Hey, everyone. How's it going?
And we are joined by Tuesday regular, Mr. David Rios.
How you doing?
I am doing well. I got a message that our regular Tommy Flormonti is trying to get in, so I think he will be here momentarily. We're going to run the video at the end of the show, but I want to remind you guys that we've got a Kickstarter going, and you can get these sweet, awesome, beautiful foil versions. This is the only place that you can get these foil covers. So you guys need to get on over to Kickstarter and back these and get these. You can still get the books after the Kickstarter's over, but you won't be able to get these sweet foil cover editions, and they look so good. You know, we've tried to take pictures. We tried to take pictures of these. I scanned them. We photographed them, and none of those. They kind of have to move. because you have to see them moving to get the pure understanding of what's here.
You need a TikTok video is what you need.
Yeah.
Like the kids have.
We do have TikToks.
There you go.
We do have TikToks.
Problem solved.
So I'm very happy to announce that after weeks and months and maybe years of sending this guy a message and said, "Hey man, join us. Hey man, join us." Okay, it can't have been years. We haven't been streaming for that long. We are finally joined by Mr. Hank Kanalz. What is up, Mr. Hank?
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey, good. And good to see you.
Yeah, it has been years, actually. You started asking me in 2021. There you go.
Yeah.
Here we are in 2023.
We started streaming, I think, in either 18 or 19.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I've been asking you for a while. I know that. And every time you're like, maybe later. Let me get something to talk about. I said, "Hey, can I talk about this?" And you're like, "No, don't talk about that." And we are joined finally by Mr. Tommy Spooky Flormonti.
Yeah, I'm trying to get. Hold on. Just continue. Pretend like I'm not here.
All right.
So
shows up.
So thank you, Hank, for dropping in. We're gonna talk all about you tonight, Hank.
Oh, my least favorite topic.
All Hank all the time.
So I'm going to start. I have a whole list of questions, but I will have to stop myself and let the others ask questions. But I am going to get it started.
You didn't send any of them to me either, so I'm like, what the heck is he going to ask me about?
You've known me long enough. If I do ask you something that you don't want to answer, just say, "Ro,
yeah,
what are you doing?" But I don't think I will.
Or you can just turn your computer off and then
you can do
rage quit and walk off stage.
Yeah. No. So you've been working in comics for a long time now.
Long time. 88.
So what we want to know is how did you get your start? Where did it all start? Where did Hank first work in comics?
Well, there's like the origin, and then there's that pre-origin that gets written after the origin story.
Well,
yeah,
I have a picture I'm going to ask you about.
All right,
but I want you to tell the story first.
I mean, technically, my first job in comics was bagging comics for a store called Remember When. I had gone to my first comic book convention in 1983. So you're diving deep. My first ever comics convention was was in Houston. It was the Comics Fair in 1983. Mike Grell did the T-shirt. Just distinctly remember it. I remember meeting him. I met Bill Willingham when he was with Texas Comics. The Elementals were just coming out. Super cool convention. My parents decided to drive me down there, and we made a weekend of it. So they were like supportive of my going to this strange gathering of people. And then there's the comic shop. I grew up in Richardson, Texas. There's a comic shop, Remember When, and there's also this great flea market. And in the flea market was a half price books, which carried comics. So between those two shops, I would go in on Saturdays and bag comics. I would just sit there and bag comics. They didn't do boards back then, so it was just bagging, not bagging and boarding. And I would do it for store credit. Smart guy that I was. You get more money with store credit than you would in cash. So
you had to have your comic book fix, of course.
And the best thing about bagging comics for comic book shops is you get first dibs on all the comics that come in. So as you're bagging the comics, you put aside the ones that you want. And you have a problem when you're putting aside more comics than you actually put out on the floor to buy them. But I did that for a long time. And then the comics fairs and the comics festivals hit the Dallas area. And there's a great dealer, Paul McSpadden, who had me bagging his comics. So he would drop off like 10 to 15 long boxes at my house on any given day, and I would bag them and alphabetize them, and have them ready for him for his. He would go around and do conventions, so he'd pick them up. So a lot of trust there, because dropping off 10 long boxes, but he would bring in so much Silver Age stuff. It was fantastic. Wow. So even if I didn't buy them, I ended up reading a ton of them, just bagging his collections.
Yeah.
And then so Remember When, the owner of Remember When passed away. So the store was sold to a guy named Bob Wayne. And this was 1985. So I got a job he just remodeled the shop, really made it super nice. Started working for him in 85. And then my family moved to California. So my dream job in high school, finally had working like legit for an actual paycheck, not for store credit, working on a comic shop, and had to move to California after that. So
did you know Larry Langford by any chance?
I did.
Okay. He ran the Tommy, do you remember him?
Who?
Larry Langford?
The Dallas Fantasy Fair was
must have, because I did several of them.
We did the shows in the late 80s, early 90s with Larry Langford at the Dallas Fantasy Fair.
That was really good. That was the thing, that there was like a whole Texas mafia of comic book guys. Then they call themselves like the Texas Mafia or something, where they were just... what
was his buddy Lone Star guy?
Buddy Saunders.
Buddy Saunders.
Lone Star on my comic shop. So I moved in 85. So the Dallas Fantasy Fairs and Fantasy Festivals, summer and fall, right? I think it was like maybe July and November every year, give or take. So one year I did the Dallas Fantasy Fair, met up with some folks at DC and Eclipse and Marvel, because they all had their little booths there. And then when I moved to California, went to the San Diego show, same summer. So I saw the same people, and the shows were smaller, but everyone recognized me, and they're like, "Didn't we see you in Dallas?" And but that's when I moved, and then I had to go back to Texas for a family thing in November. So I hit whichever the festival or fair was for November, and I saw a lot of the same people there. And it was when I was trying to break in, and so the advice you're given, it's still good advice today, is like, get to know editors, right?
Yep.
And go to conventions and meet them at conventions. And so I apparently made an impression by going to these conventions, and kept in touch, wrote a few of them back and forth. And in 88, I broke in with the DC bonus book program. It was a new talent program that they were doing. It eventually evolved into the DC new talent showcase, but before then it was the DC bonus book program, and it was all their books had short stories that were inserted into the middle of the books. So I got to write the origin story of Red and Blue Trinity, which were the Russian speedsters for the Flash comic. So it was I think it was Mike Barron and probably Butch Geis working on it, the main book, and then Bill Knapp and I got our first big break doing that story. This is Flash number 19 in 1990.
Wow. Did you get in? Did you get in through Neil Posner? Was he the?
No, so I got in through Barbara Randall.
Okay.
She became Barbara Randall Kiesel. But she left DC, so she hired me. So here's what happened: is I wrote a spec script and I sent it in to her. She was the editor of Teen Titans. I was a huge New Teen Titans fanatic. So I wrote a Speedy and Cheshire story, and I sent it into Barbara, and she sent me a really nice letter back saying, "Don't ever do this again. You don't just send a script in. So many problems, right? I'm a teenager, had no idea. I figured if I wrote a full script, that would impress them, and everything I'd read is like, you do these spec scripts, and people they see what you can do. Don't do that," she said, "because if I read this and then Marv and I end up doing a Speedy story that takes any elements of your script, I'm in trouble." It's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She goes, "But I read your script and it looks like you know what you're doing. So now I'm going to find something for you to do it on." So she put me in the bonus book program. Then she left DC. I was crushed. She's fantastic. We've stayed in touch. We see each other at conventions still. And but Joey Cavalieri came on board and took over the bonus book program. So technically, Barbara was my first editor, but Joey's the one who actually edited my first story in comics.
Huh.
There you go.
Vic Deuce says, okay, so my harassment of Roland is a good idea.
Yes.
Send him a Teen Titans spec script.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there you go.
You know, it was. I mean, you read it now and it's like, oh my god! But at the time, I thought it was like the greatest thing. And it would picked up on a thread that, you know, so Speedy would get into all sorts of trouble. He was the bad boy of the Titans, right? But he had a love affair with Cheshire, one of the Titans' biggest villains. They're all big villains. And they had a kid, and so that was the story, was how she got him hooked back on drugs because he had to go undercover to bust a drug ring in probably Shanghai or somewhere, you know, somewhere stereotypical. So and then my buddy Rob Liefeld did a nice little cover piece for it. So when I sent it in, it was a complete, hey, here's a complete story.
You did it all.
Yeah,
just princess now.
So,
and Rob ended up getting a bonus book as well. He did.
So is he your buddy from? So you see your buddy Rob Liefeld. So I know that you and Rob are buddies. But when did this happen? Was this?
So I was still in Texas.
School buddies?
Yeah, no.
No.
I was still in Texas. I was still in high school, and I was part of an APA, an APA.
Oh yeah,
Amateur Press Association. It was called Titan Talk. It was started by Margie Spears Sasky, and I think I found out about it through a letter column in one of the Titans books. I told you I was a big Titans nut, and so I joined up. I joined the waiting list. There were all these things that this was pre-internet, so there were things called APAs. There was Interlac, there was Titan Talk, there was XAPA. There were all these fandoms that would put together it was called a MINAC, minimum activity, and it was a contribution. So it could be fan fiction, it could be art, it could be commentary on comics, and then you would photocopy it or mimeograph it 50 times or however many your APA was. You send it into a central mailer. Central mailer will collate it and then send it out to everybody. So a lot of us got our. Were you a member?
Not of that one. Not of the Teen Titans. I'm trying to remember the one I belonged to. Paul Dale Roberts was the guy who ran it, and I can't remember the name.
So many of the Dark Horse people came out of APA 5.
Yeah,
because that was Paul Chadwick and Randy Stradley and Mark Verheiden.
Yeah,
and a bunch of others.
Yeah, a lot of people got their start. So Rob and I connected there, and he lived in Anaheim, and I lived in Texas. But then when I moved to California, I looked up how far Anaheim was from Corona, which is where I moved to. It wasn't that far. It's far enough when you don't have a car. But once I got my driver's license in the car, no, not in California. I assume that meant hitchhike.
Yeah.
But
I assumed you were old enough to know that. So
yeah. But so when I moved, it's just like, you have to find your people when you move, and so Rob and I connected, hit it off pretty well, and that's where we are. So he was trying to break in the same time, so he drew sample pages. It's a lot different. I'm not going to say it's harder or easier, but it's a lot easier to get your work seen when you're an artist, because you can just look at the art. It's a lot harder for a writer to get their work read, because every editor, myself,
it takes a little more effort. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, Hank, this is the thing I do.
You can tell in 5 seconds about the art. Do I want to read more? Or do I not want to read more? And with the writing, it's like,
I gotta sit here and read this.
Right.
Yeah. This is the kind of thing that I do in my class, right? Well, crap, I can't find anything right now. Of course I can't find. I have nothing but images here. It's the kind of thing where. Oh, here we go. So you can do this, right? I can hold this up. You can immediately decide, oh, I like that or I don't like that, right?
Right.
Hey, do you like this story? What do you think?
Right?
It's a lot of words, Roland.
Yeah, right. So
exactly right.
I'm not reading it.
Yeah, absolutely. Writers it's a lot harder for a writer in a visual medium to get your work seen.
But that's why, sorry to interrupt it, but it seems like that's why it's better to do what Hank was saying, which is like to just go around and meet people,
Right.
and let them see that you're not a stalker or some weird person, and then it becomes easier to go like after the third or fourth or fifth convention that you meet the same person at. It's like, yeah, I could read something.
You're okay. Yeah.
Way, it works better.
Yeah. Well, and I think they get a gauge as to whether or not they would want to work with you, right?
Yes.
Like personality and
Well, we say that all the time. You know, it doesn't matter how good you are. If you don't gel with the person that you're working with, you just don't want to do it.
Yeah, because if you figure out how long it takes to do even a 4-issue miniseries, that's easily 10 months or a year. It's like, do I want to spend a year
married to this person?
Emails or Zoom calls with this person? And sometimes, no matter how talented they are, the answer is just no.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
Now we got to go out and promote this book together and possibly do shows together at some point or another. It's like, I don't want to even sit next to this person. Oh, Roland's here. Oh, sorry, Roland.
So does that have we moved up to the picture, or the pictures later?
I don't think. I think we're getting mighty close to the picture.
All right.
All
right. So Rob and I hit it off. We at the same time. I, like everyone, I think I wanted to be a comic artist, and I was awesome. No, discovered that it's a lot harder. I mean, it's a lot harder and a lot more time consuming to draw well and draw panel to panel to panel to panel and tell a story. And I knew that wasn't in the cards for me, but at the same time, I also wanted to start making some money as a writer. So I did a lot of comics journalism. I worked for Comic Scene magazine, which is a terrific publication by the Starlog folks.
I think it was
Greenberg, wasn't it?
Pat McDonald's, I think. Eddie Braganza, DC editor, was an intern and then became an editor at they did like Starlog and Fangoria and Comic Scene and a couple other things, right? So I did a few interviews and articles for them, and then through Titan Talk, Rob and I had developed a Titans West concept that we were kind of playing with in Titan Talk, and he pitched it to DC, and DC was like, "This is great, but you've got to find a name writer because nobody knows this Hank fella." And to his credit, Rob was like, well, we co-created it, so it's not going to happen. And so it morphed into something called Youngblood, and then pitched it back. And again, DC said, "This is great, but you got to find another writer." Just try not to take it personally. It was actually going to be published by a company called Megaton Comics way back, and then
Don Simpson.
No, that's the guys who were doing. They were the first publishers of Eric Larson's Savage Dragon.
Also correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think Don Simpson might have had one of his comics there too. Megaton is Gary Carlson. I want to say out of Illinois.
Yeah, I was going to say Chicago, but it's or Evanston. It's somewhere in that big city circle, I think.
Yeah. Gosh, and then I think like one of the earlier pieces that Rob did this great wraparound cover that Jerry Ordway inked. This beautiful piece. So that didn't happen. But right around that time, Rob was studio mates with Jim Valentino, and he was really making a name for himself on New Mutants and a book called X-Force.
Yeah,
these little things that you might have heard about. So right around that time, it's like that's when the ideas for Image Comics started forming, and then Youngblood became the flagship title for the launch of Image Comics that was published and distributed by Malibu Comics.
Which brings me to my picture.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take one very. I mean, you can easily Google.
Who is that goofy bunch of people?
the first picture of the Image founders, and this picture comes up. Now, this fella right here is almost always called Whilce Portacio.
Yeah, Wilson. Feel bad for Wills.
So this is one of the things that I wanted to ask you about. Is that oh shoot, I covered up my. How do I get rid of it? Stop screen. I can't see my controls, but okay. So this was clearly early Image.
That was early Image. So that was a meeting at Mark Silvestri's house in
91.
Yeah, Southern California. Probably 91. Yeah, probably 91. 91, 92.
Yeah, because I know that Dave and Chris and I were at Mark's beach house with most of you guys, and we were there in the fall of 91.
Right.
Because we closed the deal in December of 91.
Yeah. And that would have, and I think it was Mark's house because it was sort of centrally located, because you had Jim down in San Diego, you had Rob up in Anaheim. Wizard Magazine was there, sort of to chronicle the
newsstand guys. I forget what the name was, but they were there too.
And Johnny was there. So it was weird though, because they wanted to take a picture and they insisted. I've said this every time. This picture always comes up, and every anniversary it always comes up. I didn't want to be in the picture, but Garib made me be in the picture, so I'm in the picture. And he actually said this is like the first picture of the Beatles, and so he made prints of that picture and he sent it to all of us, and it's in this gold frame. I've got it somewhere, and that picture always comes up. So at one of the first conventions after that picture hit, and Image had rightfully properly launched, everyone would come up and bring their Wetworks comics and propaganda, posters, and Mr. Wills, will you sign this for me? And it's just, oh my gosh. And Wills should have been in the picture. He wasn't at the meeting. He was in the Philippines dealing with some family issues, so he couldn't be at that meeting. So for the longest time, a lot of people thought I was Whilce Portacio, and then Wizard started photoshopping my head. They would, actually they would do a nice little inset, and that was okay but they would cover me, which sucked. They would put the inset over my body and face.
Oh, no!
Then someone had the bright idea of putting photoshopping Wils's head on my body.
No way.
Yeah, and I love Wills. But it wasn't right. It was like a Franken-Wills, and it was just bad. And then I even think the DC documentary that was just on Max uses that picture, and they either picked up a picture with Wils's head photoshopped on me, or they covered me up, which kind of rude, but
yeah,
what can you do? But it comes up every time, and to their credit, when you look at when there's ever an anniversary. Like Eric will always mention who I am, or Todd, or whoever else is running the picture. So, and it was actually,
even our regular listener here, Hank Vic says, "I'm gonna be real. I thought you were Portacio for a good year and a half."
Right? Yeah. Shoot, where is it? Get all these Gemini mailers on my desk. You want to talk about piles, but this was the coolest thing. It just happened recently too. You guys know Local Man by Tim Seeley? Let's see if this.
I've heard of it.
Oh yeah, I've seen it. I haven't picked it up yet.
It's a great read. Everyone, here we go. So this is what they drew in. I don't know if you can see that. There we go.
Oh yeah.
So they took the picture. That's
great.
So they made everybody there a superhero, except for me. But they kept, which is fine because they kept me like they didn't make me Willis Portacio. They kept me in the same. I don't even know what I was wearing. Some sort of shirt on over a shirt thing.
It was there's that guy again.
Hey, we got a great comment here, Hank, from Crunchy Wonton. It says, "This is Charlene. Hank, prove you aren't Wills."
Yeah, we're never in the same spot at the same time.
Right.
In the same place at the same time. But
there is something going on there.
But so Tim and Tony tweeted that out when it came out, and it was really, he goes, every super team needs a Hank Kanalz on their team. So that was like, that was really nice.
That is cool.
You're the guy in the chair.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tom, you've been reading my notes. Eh? Do you need a guy in the chair? That was one of my that was one of my topics for an upcoming stream.
Well, don't send me the script ahead of time then.
No.
So
I need to shave my head and put on Cerebro, and
that's
right.
That's right.
So how did you get there, Hank? From there to working with Malibu?
Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I don't know if my story will match yours, but it's a great story. I was writing this book called X Mutants for Malibu. It was Paul Pelletier, fantastic artist, super nice guy. I didn't get to start the series. I think I joined the series with issue number 4.
So did I eat those?
Was it this one right here?
No, that came later.
That's Zillion. That came later.
Ah, sorry.
But issue
4. Sorry.
But not too far after that. So I was writing X Mutants, and they had these rules. And it's like, okay, well, you can't give them superpowers. You can't kill any of them.
I know where this is going. I've heard this before.
Well, you were there. I hope you did. So that was going pretty good. It was selling all right. You know, truth be told, I think Tom and Chris were hoping to kind of bring in new readers to the series based on the success of the Image stuff. And Roland was an editor there, and he ended up taking over the series, or was on the series. And I remember getting a call from him after I turned in my script, saying, "You know, thanks for your script. You're fired." And
that was nice, Roland.
And I was like, "What?" And he goes, "But I want you to, well, I should probably back up because this was done in person. To be fair." Roland said, "You need to come into the office. We want to talk to you about something." So we go into the office, and that's when
I'm not driving all the way in to get fired.
You're fired. Yeah. But
it wasn't quite said in those words. Now, come on, you guys, give me some credit.
Roland,
it actually was. You said like, we're going to take the series in a different direction, so we're going to have to fire you. But we do have a job here if you're interested in joining. And we'd love to have you. And that's pretty, maybe I'm paraphrasing, but that was the gist of it, which is why he wanted to see me in person, as I recall. It was you and Chris, and I think Dave Ulbrich was there too. But it was definitely you and Chris, because I think you were all like, I gotta fire this guy.
Right.
One of you's got to be with me so you can offer him the staff job. Soften the blow, So after some consideration, I joined up on the editorial staff, and then I edited Zillion, and I also edited some Robotech comics.
Mm-hmm.
You did all of the like, if I remember correctly, didn't you do like all of the Eternity books?
I don't think so.
Oh, I was thinking that was what before the Ultraverse came along. You did all of the Eternity books, which were at the time pretty much just the manga inspired stuff.
Well, okay. So if it was Robotech and Zillion, then sure, I did all of them. But
there was also the Gigantor book, and then I think Eternity 2 in 1 or something like that, which was
I didn't do those.
Okay.
I thought you did Gigantor.
I think Danko did those. He was the writer.
Okay. Well, I may be remembering wrong then.
So I have a question based off of X-Mutants. Because I did read those. Actually, I did screw up by showing the Zillion one, but which I still have is, did you have any involvement in the X-Mutants Sega Genesis game?
I did not.
No. Nobody did.
Storyline, that was all just completely separate.
So the way that works, and I think this is correct, is that we had merged with Bob Jacobs' company, Acme Interactive, and they had become Malibu Interactive. And what happens is that it's like this weird 1-2 punch where we held the rights to the X-Mutants title. Sega licensed the rights from us with the understanding that Sega would then hire Malibu Interactive, our video game division, to actually make the game. And so we sort of double dipped in a sense. We get paid the licensing fee and then we get paid the production fee. But we didn't.
I need your notes on how to do that.
Nobody on staff at the comic book side was involved in the storyline or the stuff of the game.
Okay.
That was all sort of tightly controlled by the interactive side and by Sega.
Okay, cool. And just a side note on the Zillion stuff. The reason I bring this up is that this was my first published work.
Nice.
Which was the backstory in the back of this, that Mr. Kanalz wrote the story, and penciler that I knew penciled it, and I inked it, so I was very happy with it. So
there you go.
There you go.
That is awesome. Small world keeps getting smaller. That is fantastic.
Hey man, it's the first I realized the whole stream tonight all has a Malibu connection. Yeah, I just realized that. We are Roberta.
Hey,
you need to say
I didn't
hi.
get to say hi. So
That's right, you didn't. So Roberta, say hi.
Hank, how are you? Hi.
It's been years.
Nice to see you. I know
Nice
I
to see you.
have.
I actually saw you last week when you were with Jim Chadwick on your
cool.
stream. But
All right.
but
Well,
pretty cool.
kind of. I didn't see you.
You did not.
He was lurking.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I watched the replay. I actually didn't know that Chadwick was on until Roland mentioned it, and I was too late. So then I just watched it that night, though. It was a great time. So
when we were backstage before we went live, Roland and I were talking about the sort of the Hank connection, how Hank got involved in Malibu. And one of the things that
where he said I had to fire him.
Well, Hank, bang, son, you're out of here. But here's good. They've got good news. I got bad news. What you want to do?
That sounds just like Roland. I had to look up to see who was talking.
The thing is, though, like as soon as he fired me, he gave the X-Mutants superpowers, which is like he told me
that's
you're
what
not
I was
allowed
waiting
to
for.
Yeah. You can't. Well, here's the thing. You
Pissed
cannot
me
trust
off.
Roland. That's the key. That's the takeaway. Because the thing that's weird is that people always talk about how to break into comics, and it's like your story is sort of an example of one of the ways to do it.
Yep.
Which is we met you through Image because you were associated with Rob, and the more you kept coming up to the office, the more it's like, do you see any red flags with Hank? No, I don't see any red flags with Hank. And just, well, let's go to lunch with him. Let's have Hank come up more. And then it's like, well, let's get him a job writing a comic book because we like him because he's here. So we'll give you the X-Mutants job. And then it's like,
yeah,
well, it's the X-Mutants thing. We like Hank. I still don't see any red flags. He's been coming up here for like a year and a half. If he's going to explode or be difficult, we'll know by now. Why don't we make him an editor? Let's bring him on staff because you mesh well with the other guys, and that way we don't have to go out and date another editor to see if there's a good fit because you're already attached, you're already in the orbit.
And Jim Chadwick reinforced that idea last week. He said, it's all about networking.
It is.
It is.
So Hank, we gotta before we move on, Vic has a couple of questions here. I think Tom will probably be better suited to answer this one. I think.
Well, it's not Vic. It's Hank's show, so save those for next time.
Well, Vic says that was Dark Wolf still kicking when you were at Eternity, Hank?
No,
I don't think so. Yeah, Tom says no. You remember Dark Wolf, don't you, Tom?
I do. All those when we switched over, Dark Wolf was returned to Butch and and RA, so because they own the rights. And so that's when we switched over from creator-owned books to company-owned books.
Yeah. So Hank Vic is a regular of ours. He says there's Malibu stuff I don't know. Am I a fraud? Vic knows so much about Malibu.
Oh yeah.
And here's the thing, Vic's like 16.
So how does he know any of it?
So it's like, yeah, but he knows. So he'll send me a message. I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure about that. He goes, yes, here's blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, okay then, right?
Wow.
If you say so.
He knows us as the dollar bins.
Right.
Yeah.
The 50 cent.
I've probably forgotten more than Vic knows.
Right. He goes, whenever I try and sound like Roland, I go full on Foghorn Leghorn.
Oh no.
So at the time at Malibu, it was the office started growing faster than I think we could keep up. But the editorial area was just a bunch of desks that were not even cubes, right? So there were desks with sort of little areas that
just kind of shoved together as they would fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Tom didn't let y'all have more room. Tom, come on now.
No, we had exploded. We didn't realize how fast the space would fill up. Because when we first moved in there, it's like when you get your first computer. Oh, I'll never fill this up. There's
right.
And then you do.
And you look at the old Malibu office in Westlake Village, and you think, and the bullpen was shaped like a U.
A U.
And you think, oh, we'll never fill this up. There's way too much space. And then it's like, well, you bring in some colorists and you bring in this other, all the other people, and everything works fine. And then, the more people come in, it's like, where are we going to put them? And then all of a sudden you have this sort of, instead of an organic sort of feng shui flow chart where everything works perfectly, it's like, well, these people just showed up, so we put them over there.
Shove a desk in here.
Yeah.
Put this desk on top of that desk.
Tom, maybe you can answer me a question because I cannot remember. So I remember absolutely the U. What I can't remember was what was inside the U. There had to have been a room in there because the walls didn't connect. So what was the space? What filled the space in between the two legs?
So if you
that was Tom's bat cave.
That's so it was really just a wall. There wasn't really a space there. So as you came in, there was the marketing area. So there's Alan Payne and Ty and John Riley and Cosby and Ross.
Right.
They were all there. And then we were all at the bottom of the U. There was Stacy and then me and then Ulm and then Dave and Kim Schulter were sort of at the little connector of the U.
Right.
And then Dan was next to Chris and I think Hank was over there too. And then Roland and Mike Brown were up towards the middle of the U near the art. Oh, the art room was in the U. The art room was in the U.
That's what it was. Okay, because there was space there. Yeah, there was. I just couldn't remember what was in the space. And I remember briefly
moving everybody up, and we had
Schellinger was there, but right by the door that went into the colorist room.
Right, and then because we had Will McGuire was in the back issue room. He was in the he was in the garage essentially.
Yeah.
Wow. Mike Brown. I remember Mike.
Yeah.
Anyone keep in touch with him?
I've looked for him on Facebook and different places, and Kara says she bumped into him at a little league game of all places in Colorado.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where did Roberta sit?
You know where I was. In the group, we had a full set of desks. They were all flat and connected. So it was, we were just all
they were in the warehouse.
Each other. Yeah, we were completely shoulder to shoulder, just in a big line.
Right. Until we moved to Calabasas. Yeah, they were in the warehouse.
Yep.
Yeah. And we moved to Calabasas so the company could be sold. We didn't really move to make more room for people.
Hey, babe,
I didn't know that. I thought it was.
I didn't either.
Because
nobody knew that.
Because the thing, so it's too bad that Bob Jacob won't sign in and debate me. But what happened is that they wanted to set it up so that the office looked like a stereotypical place, like a comic book office should look like. And so that's why everything was bright colors and everything was in weird shapes and odd angles.
who is responsible for the freaking ugly desktops for all our cubes with the black squiggly
black
worms?
and white.
I hope that wasn't you, Tom.
That'd be Mr. Scott Rosenberg.
Oh my god!
He took all the.
It took a long time to get used to that with your eyes.
Oh my
I purposely had stacks of papers. Seriously, I really developed a bad habit to cover that desktop because it would shimmer when you look at it.
The idea was that it was never designed for people to use.
Yeah.
So it was never the thought of people there didn't matter. It was designed so that when Scott and Bob would parade people through, that it would look like their vision of a comic book office.
Ugh.
And so, but it really looks more like Joker's symbol.
Dan Danko did the right thing, and he put like 2 40-gallon fish tanks on his counters. So
Because the thing is, that's why the colorists had to block the fluorescent lights because they couldn't work.
Helpful.
And then Scott and Bob would come in and they say, "We can't have cardboard covering up the fluorescent lights. What will people think?" It's like,
right.
We're trying to color here.
Do you want the colors to work and be happy, or do you want Mr. Venture Capitalist to come in and be happy?
Wow, had no idea. Well, so back in the old office, then Chris and company were putting together the Ultraverse. I was in my corner working on the Robotech and the Zillion books and all that kind of stuff. And I think Dave has told this story before, and certainly Chris has. But I just remember one day having gotten a lot of the stuff done that I needed to get done. I brought up to Chris, it's like, look, you've got me on staff, but you're underutilizing me. Like, put me in, coach. And so I basically ended up joining the Ultraverse team after they had already done like their first Scottsdale meeting and all that kind of stuff. But brought in some talent that they hadn't yet brought in. And kind of went from there.
You were the Perez whisperer.
Yeah, Perez was a good get, I thought.
Absolutely.
I helped out with Dan. Dan did most of the trading cards, but I helped get a couple of artists for the trading card sets that we had done. I wish I had sets of those. I don't have those anywhere, but they turned out really nice. The trading cards, yeah.
Three big sets. Just so you know, Danko keeps his in 3 beautiful binders.
Does he?
Yes.
I think I might have.
He pulls them out. They're up on a. I don't know what his office is like now, but when we shared an office after Malibu, he had a beautiful, a shelf with beautiful binders all ready to go.
I think I've got a binder of them.
Yeah,
I do too. I've got some.
I think y'all sent me several sets. I think it was something.
Yeah, they were great.
They were great.
I have them.
And I think the big one was when we
these ones.
Yeah. Aren't those great? Fantastic.
Like those,
really did
I
nice
like painted dormant ones too.
Oh yeah.
So we did that for a couple of years, and then I found something that I don't think many people have seen, and I don't know where the original is because it was in the Malibu art room when they shut things down. But I have a photo. I found a photo stat of this, and
wow,
that's cool.
Nice. Oh,
you guys
from the
remember
DC
this?
thing.
Yeah. So you can bleep this or edit this in the. If it is public knowledge that at one point DC almost bought Malibu, right?
Well, I can't stop shutting up about it. So go ahead.
Okay. So I mean that was the first time I went to New York with Roland too. Not the first time I went to New York with Roland. It's the first time I'd ever been to New York.
Same here
with Roland. And we met with the DC editors in secret. We actually ended up going to a Time Warner building that DC was not in, and it was like on an HR floor. We met with Carlin, I think, maybe Paul, but definitely Carlin, because Carlin was going to be the guy who would be working with us. And we were basically mapping out what the Malibu DC crossover to launch the announcement and celebrate the purchase of DC. Would be. So Mike was very big on not doing the typical, right? So a lot of people were saying that Prime and Superman should team up, but the better team up there was absolutely Prime and Captain Marvel. And Ringo was a huge Captain Marvel fan, and we had gotten to do some things for us, and so we had him do that nice piece. I think there was a Batman Mantra crossover, which would be like, that's certainly atypical. Like, again, people would want Wonder Woman and Mantra, but we went for the atypical with Batman Mantra.
We'd also gone off site before then and put together a potential list of these kinds of things. We'd all gone to Palm Springs.
Yes.
And because I have the original list, and I think the for the big crossover event was going to be headlined by Green Lantern.
Huh.
And also Hawkman was somewhere in there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember it was definitely Green Lantern, because they were looking for something to kind of reinvigorate the Green Lantern franchise.
Right. Because he wasn't anybody then. I mean, he wasn't. He became Green Lantern later, but he wasn't really. He was like he was on a par with Metamorpho at that point.
Just about, yeah. So we did that, and then you were talking about Perez. About, I want to say 3 years ago, I came across an eBay listing, which, and again, I don't know what happened to all the art in there, but I found on eBay some guy selling this. And this was great for me, because this was a character Siren that I had created and contributed to Ultraverse. And this was just on sale for a couple $100 on eBay. It was an unused Ultraverse cover. I think by the time the cover came in, Marvel had laid off my round. There were several rounds of layoffs, so I think I was in the second or third round, I think. So by the time the issue was going to come out, they had either canceled the series or wrapped up the series. But George still did the piece, and so I saw that, and I put in a high bid and just watched.
It's mine.
You know?
Yeah. Nice. So I would like to tell my Hank George Perez story.
Yes. Let's hear it.
Because it makes me look bad, and so but I genuinely like it. Because I remember when we came up with the idea of doing Ultra Force as a book, and I think Chris had sent out proposals to the founding writers and said, come up with something, and then they sent proposals back, and Jerry Jones was the one who won. Yeah, the winner. And we're all sitting, and I can't remember if this was a formal meeting in Chris's office or an editorial meeting, or if it just was a conversation that was in passing. But I remember Hank speaking up and saying, hey, it'd be great if we could get George Perez to draw Ultra Force. And I remember being the idiot saying, you go right ahead, Hank. You call George Perez. See what he says. And Hank comes back like 2 hours later and says, yeah, George will do it. And so, it took like no time at all, because he's the Perez whisperer.
George is great. Rest in peace. That is an awesome story, too.
Yeah.
I do love that story. I'll never get tired of you telling that.
He'll never get tired of telling it.
No, because it's one of those things where you can be a smart ass and think that you're correct, and then all of a sudden it's like, and now in 2 hours you're like the idiot. You're you're completely wrong. And because now you would look at it, and I would, now that I've had some therapy, you would just look at it and go, you could go, hey Hank, that's a really good idea. You should call George and see what happens, and that's
give it a shot.
Give it a shot. And, but back then I was the younger, stupider person.
We all were.
And so,
we all were.
It worked out because Perez totally makes that book. He makes it work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That guy's amazing.
It appeals to the thing that I liked about him, which is I read one time where he wanted to basically, before he passed away, he wanted to be able to say he drew almost every superhero possible.
Yeah.
And so we got him close to that.
Yeah, well, if he didn't, he came real close.
And I don't know if you guys remember, but you remember he did a wraparound cover for Genesis Zero, which got just about every one of the characters from the Genesis world in it.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we also brought in some non-traditional Perez inkers. Like, we didn't use the usual suspect inkers.
Right.
Yeah, didn't Steven?
Steven worked with him on some. Yeah.
Steven was telling me about that. I'm like, why are you inking George Perez? I don't get it.
Because it's George Perez.
No, I know why you would do it, but I'm like, why did they ask you to do it? This is
well, also, truth be told, he would also run very, very close to deadline, if not past deadline, and so we'd have to engage multiple inkers to get it done.
Oh yeah.
So.
Oh yeah. Well, and Steven's work at the time certainly was heavily Perez influenced, and if I'm not mistaken, I think there were a few pages which Perez didn't quite finish.
Well, Steven could always
Steven
draw
kind of finished them. Yeah.
Styles, yeah.
I don't know that there was a lot of pages that way, but wasn't my book. I just got to see the art as it came in. So.
Well, that's I don't know how you guys feel about this, but that's one of the things I miss about comics that doesn't exist now is when you could see the book come in from FedEx and you could hold the original art in your hand and it felt like a thing.
Yeah.
Whereas now you're just looking at it on the computer, and I understand that it's faster and it's easier, whatever. But I really like the idea of holding original art in my hand and reading a book from the original art.
Being able to smell the cigarette smoke when you open the package from Dan and David Day, right?
You can always tell which half dozen creators were avid smokers.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
See,
well, the worst part though is when FedEx
was the artist shopping list where they would write stuff on the
right.
Yeah,
milk, cheese.
Yeah, all the time. Just scribble on whatever we want to. Somebody yell at you something, you just make a note on the side of the paper.
Yeah.
The worst was when FedEx was running late, though, and they wouldn't deliver. And then I don't know if you remember. I think we had a couple people do it, but when the person who have to check the stuff in would take freaking forever to check in your pages, and then they're delivering the page like at 3:00 in the afternoon. It's like, I needed these earlier.
Yeah, well, because that's the other thing too. You would sort of when FedEx would show up at 9:30 or 10. You could easily plan your day. Okay, this is the thing that I'm working on. Mm-hmm. But if it's not, and you're waiting for pages because you have to turn a book around quickly, you can't really do anything else. You're supposed to, but you're really just sort of, you're pacing the floor. You're walking into the shipping room saying, "Is he here yet? Is he here yet?"
Right.
You're looking down the street to see if you can spot the truck. We even had days where one of us would get in the car and sort of drive around and see if we and so look, we're expecting pages today. Why aren't they here?
Oh no. There you go.
Those guys said that they sent something. You got the tracking information. Those lying artists, they didn't send nothing. Yeah. They lied.
Hey, this is an important question from Hyper Potato, who is a fan of Silverline and a big supporter. We love Hyper. He says, Hank, how much do you love Sergeant Rock?
Is Hyper a huge Sergeant Rock guy?
He is a very huge Sergeant Rock fan.
Yeah. Well, I love Kubert's work on Sergeant Rock. That's you can't have one without the other.
Yep, agreed.
Fantastic stuff.
Yeah. And in fact, he's going to quiz Tom sometime about Easy Company, I think.
Well, because my favorite character was Wildman. So but actually, I'm more of a Gunner and Sarge person. So we should sort of segue into what Hank is doing now.
Yeah, well, I was going to say I have more questions, but Roberta, Tommy, Dave, y'all got any questions?
I think I'm caught up enough for his past. So yeah, I don't know what he's up to now, and I'd love to hear it. That's my question.
Well, if we fast forward to what I'm doing now, you skip over about 25 years.
I was going to say, you spent a lot of years at DC. Yeah. Give us some highlights of DC.
That's a lot of years.
So many. Well, so like really quick then. Marvel laid a bunch of us off. My severance package from Marvel actually expired on a Friday in March, and then my first day on the job at Warner Brothers started the next Monday, just by sheer happenstance. Started there, working for a department that ended up being called Brand Assurance, but they were moving the functionality of Brand Assurance from New York, the DC offices in New York, to Burbank, California. And I had, when I was working on Ultra Force, I also, one of the jobs that I had absorbed at the company was working on some of the licensed stuff. So not the Sega Genesis game, but the Ultra Force Galoo toy line,
cartoon,
and the cartoon, and merchandise that was being developed there. So with that experience, I got a job that they had posted and needed in Burbank, that people with experience in the comic book industry. So I ended up working with DC quite closely from that point forward. And then took an 8-year break from comics to travel the world as Warner's director of theme park licensing. So the way I'd be introduced at meetings was, this is Hank. He gets to travel the world and ride roller coasters for a living, which is pretty true. And it was probably one of the best jobs that you could ever have. And a lot of that, again, was the DC stuff, because you have all the rides and all the merchandise. But in addition to DC, all the Looney Tunes characters, all the Warner Bros. Characters, all the Hanna-Barbera characters. And it was my job.
Spent a lot of time at Six Flags and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. That was a 55-year deal, 55-year contract that they had with the company. And then one time was in a meeting with Paul. We were going over a stunt show with the Six Flags folks, Paul Levitz at DC. And after that meeting, he kind of pulled me aside and he said, you're at a point in your life now where you can make a decision what you want to do with your career. You can kind of go down this path that you're on and maybe get a job at Imagineering and really kind of expand your skill set there. Or you can come work for me at DC and broaden your skill set with us. And it's like, wow, that's awesome. And I just kept that in the back of my head. I was in Spain building a park, Movie World Madrid, Warner Bros. Movie World Madrid. When I landed, it was on 9/11, and the airport was completely empty. They didn't tell us while we were on the plane what had happened. So we get in the car and dropped off at the hotel. The hotel was like, have you checked in at home? And it's like, why would I do that? And they said, well, go up to your room and watch the news. And so turn that on. Tried to get a hold of my wife. We just had our first child born. Couldn't get through for 8 or 9 hours. Finally got through, and she was a mess. And she basically said, I can't deal with you traveling so much. So got home, called up Paul, said, all right, it's time, and I started working at DC.
So Paul was the Hank whisperer.
Yeah, it was great. It was interesting because he tells me, he goes, I keep tabs on people who I come across over the years, and you hit our radar back in the early 90s when Image started as someone that we might want to bring on staff. And basically, Tom, everything that you were saying is like, every interaction you have with them,
right,
proved more and more that it's like, well, we could work with this guy. So it turns out that so flashback to one of my early jobs when I worked for Bob Wayne, he ended up selling his stores and moving to New York and working for DC as their sales, the head of sales. I think at the time it was the director of sales, but he worked his way up to right, the top sales position, like a vice president or senior vice president of sales. And he had actually recommended the same thing. It's like, well, this guy used to work for me in my store. He'd be really good. So Paul had been paying attention to what I was doing without telling me he was paying attention to what I was doing. And then had a good solid 6 to 8 years of interaction with him when I was at Warner Brothers, to the point where he felt super comfortable with bringing me on to DC.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah,
nice.
After Malibu, then, so this is like cut to today. I'm the publisher of Clover Press. We're a small boutique publisher based out of San Diego. I'm in the North Los Angeles area. I'm in Thousand Oaks, which is northwest of Los Angeles. Very close actually to Duo and
the original Malibu offices.
And the original Malibu offices.
And
so Dave,
down the street from me, I'm in Simi Valley. So
all right, yeah,
right.
Cool. We were in Simi for a while. We were up in
and Roberta too, right?
And me too. Yeah, I'm in Granada Hills.
Where are you?
Granada Hills.
Oh, Granada Hills, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a papaya nursery.
I went to Disneyland last week. Okay, doesn't count.
Hank, Vic has a really important question for you here. He said, "Would you ever do any work for Silverline?"
So when Warner Brothers had their huge layoffs because of the AT&T purchase, I was one of the casualties there, and Roland was very generous to offer me some work at Silverline, and I do and still consider it. My focus right now really is a couple different things. I have some clients that I consult for, and running Clover Press as the publisher. So
yeah.
When it's time to write superhero comics again, the first place I'll take it will be to Roland.
There you go, Vic. And this is all broadcast live, so you can't take backsies.
Yeah.
So are you the founder of Clover Press or
no? So there's a company called IDW that was founded by Ted Adams and Robbie Robbins, and they built that company up into a multi-million-dollar corporation, and they decided to leave in 2019 and start Clover Press. And I started sending my resume out in 2021, and I sent it to Ted because Ted knows everybody, and I say, hey Ted, I'm available for work. If you know of anyone, please share my resume. And he called me that day and goes, it's really weird that you sent this to me, because I was just thinking about this. I'm thinking of retiring, and if you're interested in taking over as publisher, we'd love to have you over at Clover. And again, with Ted, another publishing company in San Diego, we grab lunch once in a while and just compare notes about the business and how things are going and things that we could work on together. And so he felt very comfortable with bringing me on board. And
so that was right before IDW had their financial problems, wasn't it?
When they left, yeah.
They
left. Years.
They left, and then about a year later, IDW got into financial.
So that's how you got those cool Terry and the Pirates books too, right?
Exactly right. Yeah. So again, full circle. One of my earliest jobs in comics was doing articles for Comic Scene, and one of the articles I did was on the big Marv Wolfman Eclipse crossover. So they hired, Marv Crisis on Infinite Earths Wolfman to kind of do the same thing with all the series that Eclipse Comics was publishing at the time. So I interviewed Dean and Kat Ironwood and Marv Wolfman for that article. And Dean has really dedicated his life to preserving some of these old books. That would actually make my bookshelf fall apart, I think. So we're doing these great oversized Terry and the Pirates books. We just released Dick Tracy as well. We'll be doing Dick Tracy in hardcover, and then a couple other things planned for the LOAC, the Library of American Comics. Really cool stuff. Nice. But at Clover, we do like higher end coffee table books. And we found, very similar to Silverline, that Kickstarter is a great way to get these projects to the public. Direct to consumer is something that for these kinds of books works really well. Retailers can't necessarily take a chance. I wish that more of them would, and I think they're really missing out by not paying attention to what's on Kickstarter, because I think they can pick up a lot of projects that they otherwise would not be picking up. But we do a lot of nice high-end hardcover coffee table books. We've got a Godzilla Kong book coming out really soon. We just pre-launched this fantastic Bela Lugosi biography. It's the definitive biography of Bela Lugosi by Robert Kramer. It's going to be well over 700 pages with tons of photos and like photos of artifacts that no one's seen.
I am
from the
looking into
family
that.
archives. Yeah,
Wow.
it's
Nice.
just beautiful. Yeah, that'll be launching this week on Kickstarter. We pre-launched it, so give it a follow. We also have another book called The Mask of Hylia, and that is really kind of near and dear for me because it's a book that's by all women and all Asian creators, and it's based and steeped in Filipino mythology. And I've learned a lot actually about Filipino mythology in the last year working with these ladies, which is something that growing up, a couple of times my mom would bring the stuff up, but not always. But one in particular, she believes you should never have your bed under your window in your bedroom because that's how you're taken by some Filipino trolls as a kid. It's Filipino feng shui, I guess. And that's how you keep your kids in line, right? But this is this is something really special. So that's a Kickstarter that's running right now. It's called Mask of Hylia, and the limbs are they're wonderful, folks. Yeah.
Oh, it's great art.
Yeah, that's Hai Ning.
That's nice looking. Yeah.
Thank you. So it's a wonderful book. So it's important to them too for representation that it's all women and all Asian. So it's authentic. And you guys have all heard the stories about like Whoopi Goldberg wanting to be part of Star Trek because she grew up seeing Uhura on the bridge. It's the same thing with comics. For a very, very long time, it's been nothing but white folks, and with the occasional exception here and there, obviously. But this is an important one. And then, go ahead.
It also seems like it's, in terms of representation and stuff like that, it also seems like it's a great idea that it's like a coffee table hardcover.
This is a deluxe book. So they did it as a comic, and this is a deluxe hardcover with a slipcase. So this is something.
Go ahead.
This is something great that you'd be very proud to have on your coffee table in your
bookshelf. And it looks. I think it makes it more real because it's a book, and so I think that lends to the importance of it.
Right. Thank you. Yeah. And Filipinos have played such an important role in American comics.
Absolutely.
Certainly Filipino comics, but so many talented artists have come from the Philippines or are in the Philippines right now too.
Well, as a kid, I grew up reading. I remember when the collective sort of came over to the U.S. and they started drawing the what are called the mystery books for DC.
Yes.
And I started seeing all the cool stuff and all the different styles.
Yeah.
And that to me was eye-opening because I was seeing non-traditional art that wasn't just superhero art. It was more illustrative. Yeah. It was more evocative. It was fun to see.
They can definitely capture a mood, for sure.
Yeah.
So, and then we have I don't know if you want to pull it up too, Roland, if you're willing to pull it up. But Immortal is another important Kickstarter that we've got coming up. That'll be coming up top of November. But that's the next issues in a series of books that are all based in the work of Xiao Yi, fantastic wuxia, fantasy martial arts stories that are kind of taking place in different eras. We have a couple modern day series plus a series that takes place during the Boxer Uprising, and then a great series.
I'm not getting anything on the.
No, put in Assassin G. It should come up. And Assassin G actually takes place in the 80s, so that's a nice throwback, especially for people in my age bracket. So that's my sweet spot. So yeah, we're doing all that, keeping busy.
Sounds like it.
Keeping super busy.
The art books are so lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Nice.
So those are coming up, and then another thing that we're doing on a Clover. So when I first started chatting with them, wanted to get a feel for the things that they like and the things that I like. I've always been very art focused artist focused. Even back on Ultraverse, that would be my focus is how can we get the best possible artists on these series. So we're doing a series of books called the Marvel Art of, and we've already done 3. We did one for David Mack, one for Alex Malev, and then one for David Nakayama. And the goal for me is to like kind of bring a whole range of different artists from different eras and different fan bases, and really kind of present their art and put them on a pedestal more so than in the past, right? And focus on some of their processes, focus on their covers. So it's kind of a program where we have like about 200-page coffee table book plus a portfolio that collects some of their best pieces, is 12 plates, 12 to 14 plates in each portfolio. And then if they have it like a sketchbook, those are the kinds of things you can get at conventions, but opening it up so that you don't have to go to a convention to get these things. And of course, they'll have it at conventions if they go, but it's a nice celebration of the artists at Marvel. We have a really nice roster for 2024, and we announce them when we go live, right? So, so I can't tell you, but
I can say. Awesome. I can say that I've seen the stuff for the David Nakayama stuff, and it looks beautiful. I mean, I've been a huge fan of his. I've talked with him at conventions, and a few things on Facebook as well. But the book is really nicely done. It's really beautiful. So
thank you. So, I mean, and it's all David. It's his work that makes it look so good. But but Robbie does our design work. Robbie Robbins, and he's a fantastic book designer.
Yeah, but it's good presentation and everything, which is you guys. Yeah. So
thank you.
Awesome.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm looking at the website, and you did Carmen, the graphic novel, based on the opera, right?
That's right. P. Craig Russell.
Given that you work in comics, how many people come up to you and pronounce it Carmen? As if it's a teen book.
I will say 0.
See, we're learning.
But nice. Yes, they are learning.
Carmen.
It's like Transformers, but they're cars.
Yeah. We've got we did this novel by Ricardo Delgado, who had done Age of Reptiles with Dark Horse. He wrote this, it's like a 500-page novel, his take on Dracula of Transylvania. And he did this art section in the back. This was before I joined Clover, this prose book. They had finished it right when I joined the company. But there was this section of art in the back that were some of his character designs. And so I was talking to him about what his next project would be. And he's got a lot of projects, some really interesting ones that we'll be bringing out through Clover. But people really gravitate towards his art, and so it's like, man, it's a shame that we ran all the art in the book. If you had a couple more pieces, we could have done an art book. Because I've got like over 200 pieces of designs, and it's just like ding. Anytime I get like 140 to 200 pieces of art, I could put a really nice art book together. So that was a great campaign that we ran earlier, and the book's doing really well. And from all those designs, Delgado has designed a tarot card set, and so we're going to be releasing that. And so we're doing all sorts of different projects. And again, we do pride ourselves on the eclectic part of the description of how we describe ourselves. We're an eclectic publisher. Robbie's an avid fisherman, and so he connected with an artist, Ray Troll. So we're doing the Spawn Till You Die, the fin art of Ray Troll. Here's this guy who's been drawing for 40 plus years. He's got installations at the Smithsonian and aquariums across the world. Very big in the Pacific Northwest. He's had over, several million T-shirts of his artwork made over the years. Wow. So we're collecting all of his art. In fact, he had a snowboard that was made from one of his pieces of art, and there's this YouTube. I can send you a link, and you can put it in the comments wherever you're gonna put this video. There's a snowboarder who was buried, and another snowboarder found him and rescued him. And the reason why is he saw out of the corner of his eye when he was snowboarding down this hill this bright red snowboard, and it happened to be Rachel's art. And so it was a big story early this year. Tremendously talented artist. He does a lot of paleontology art, but then he also does a lot of gags, right? So a lot of dad jokes is what I would call them. Right up Tom's alley.
I love it. I love dad jokes.
I need this book.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, great dad joke for you, right? And then I got another question for you. So, what did the janitor say when he came out of the closet?
I don't know.
Supplies.
Oh, that's awful.
That's terrible.
So, Hank, one of the things that I wanted to ask you for some time now is what exactly is the relationship? Because I know you work with Immortal Studios, but then you're actually the publisher for Clover Press. What's the relationship between those two? Because aren't you also don't you hold a position at Immortal Studios as well?
Yeah. So no relation. It's just
okay. You just got 2 gigs.
Yeah, I'm a busy guy. I got a couple other gigs that aren't as visible. I'm
aware of one of them, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, highlights at DC. I mean, there's 25 years or so many, but getting to make a 4-minute Batman ride film that was a highlight. That was an amazing time, and I can say that I was a producer on a Batman short film, so that was cool. Launching digital comics for DC, dragging them kicking and screaming into the digital age. That was an interesting time too, because so many people were super resistant to doing it. They thought it would mean the end of print comics, and it was anything but.
Well, that's one of the things that actually you and I talked about one of the times when I was out at San Diego, and we grabbed a quick lunch and we talked about digital comics. I don't know if you remember that or not.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's still the future. That's where we're going to expand our audience. But I remember having a retailer meeting where we would invite all our retailers into Burbank. We had them at a theater. We had a big to do, and like they literally had, well, not literally, because literally, I mean, they would actually have them, but they had pitchforks out ready to spike all of us, and they were so, and it came from fear, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then when we launched and the bottom didn't fall out of their business, and in fact their business grew, they finally came around. Well, actually, really only a few retailers came back to apologize at the approach that they took. For the most part, everyone else just sort of hoped that it would be ignored and it would go away. But they were just downright nasty.
Yeah.
And certainly in the years since, that is how audiences have grown. People can discover comics digitally, and then they go in and get the collected or the print books.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It's how Webtoons and Manta and some of the others are just
Tapas.
Because kids, the reason why comics grew on the newsstand is because that's the place where the kids went.
Yes.
Now the kids are on their phone. So if comics want to succeed in capturing those kids, it's not about bringing the newsstand back. It's about going to the phone. It's go where the kids are.
Fish where the fish are is what we'd say. People always say that, right? So, so like a nice high-end hardcover coffee table book doesn't work as great on your phone. So,
yeah.
But and I do love my books. I do love, and again, that was like the best person to have in charge of digital comics is someone who loves the tangible book, right? Because you're not going to do anything to jeopardize that. But a lot of internal, we'll call them discussions, on how to roll things out. So that was a highlight. Running Vertigo, that was a terrific highlight. The job I had worked towards. Every job I had at DC, I sort of pretty much, kind of going back to how things were at Malibu. Like they were kind of jobs of my making, seeing something that I could do to help, and then offering to do that, and then having that suggestion accepted and then done. So I ended up running the content strategy for the company. That was figuring out with Dan and Bob and Jim, like what we were publishing, what format we were publishing it, what cadence, what price point, things like that. And then had sales and marketing. Dan had wanted me in charge of sales and marketing for a while, and it was something that I wasn't as interested in. And then as things got restructured a few times over, it ended up falling under my purview. And so learned quite a bit doing that. And then, when I became available outside of DC, I have a pretty good size plate to fill, and I've been doing that. So different parts of my experience set from my years up until that point, people come knocking on the door asking for that kind of help, and if it's a good fit, that's what I do.
Most excellent.
Yeah.
Well, my clock tells me that we should have ended a few minutes ago, but it has been fun. A couple things, Hank. Can we ask you to come back?
Sure.
I hope it won't take you another 3 years to say yes.
No. Although I feel like I talked about everything, so I'm not sure there's anything left.
Well,
no, there's a lot of
we can tell. Yeah,
just the generalness of stuff. You can get into detail.
This is the overview. This is the book jacket.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Tom.
When I get to the middle part of my history of the Ultraverse, I'll definitely want to talk to you. But also when you get your next book out, when your next book goes live, we should do.
Absolutely, yeah. Come on.
Cool. Well, yeah. If you guys want Lynn Lugosi and Robert Kremer, when the Lugosi book goes live, I'd be happy to bring them.
That would be great.
Oh yeah,
those guys they have stories. Let me tell you.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I think that would be because we're live, aren't we, Roland?
Yes, we are.
Mm-hmm.
And but you also rebroadcast as a podcast, right?
Yep, we sure do. That's why I try to, at the very beginning, I try to get you all to say just a hello after I say your name, just so people can put a voice with the name. We stream. We're streaming live now on 8 different platforms. So we're on Facebook, LinkedIn, 2 YouTube channels, 2 Twitch channels, and also Twitter. So, and then of course the YouTubes will be up perpetually. So,
and then if the Roku deal goes through, you'll be on Roku.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. If Roku happens, then we'll also be on Roku. They're still still trying to get that. Yeah, still trying to get that happening. The network that we're part of is running a Kickstarter right now, trying to raise money to make the move to a
So I think if Hank has a thing he wants to promote, and you want to bring some of the creators on who want to chat, that seems
absolutely
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
That seems like
and we've got 3 different streams. This is of course this is the team that, well, except for Dave. This is the team for Sunday, and then we have a
Dave.
No. Dave's part of the Dave's part of the Tuesday stream. Is what I'm saying.
Dave, get out of here.
Tuesday.
he's part of the Tuesday team. We have a team this Tuesday that they stream later. So I think it's 8 p.m. your time that they stream, because it's like 11. Yeah. So 8 p.m. your time, and then Wednesday we have another team, a different team that does the same time as we do. So
we're the fun crowd.
We are the fun crowd. We are the fun one. In fact,
we're the fun one.
In fact, Hyper says always fun, y'all. Would love to hear more from Hank. So see there, Hank.
Yeah.
All right.
Hyper wants you back. And then he always reminds everyone who is watching, and whether this is live or whether this is on the repeat, like and subscribe, everyone. Please do. All the algorithms, it helps those. So and it doesn't cost you anything to do either. So please do that. Last thing, Hank, is we do a little thing here when we sign off that we all have a tendency to say, make mine Silverline. So you'll see we have a recording here. May I ask you, I'll put you solo on the screen, and may I ask you just say, hi, I'm Hank Kanalz, make mine Silverline. And then what I'll do is I'm going to clip that and use it for our closing in the future.
All right.
You up to that? Okay.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, oh wait, before I forget, I almost forgot this last week too. So,
shouldn't he say "Make mine so"? Shouldn't he say "I'm Hank Kanalz from Clover Press"? Make mine Silverline.
Make mine Silverline. Yes.
All right.
So on Tuesday, don't forget about our other streams. On Tuesday, that Silverline show on Tuesday, they're going to be playing Vampire the Masquerade. They have roped me into joining them again for their Halloween edition. We will be role playing.
My first time.
Dave's first time. I did it last year with them, and it was a lot of fun. On Wednesday, then our Wednesday crew is going to be talking about writing comedy. Oh, in which Tom is going to be there.
Oddly enough, yeah.
For those who, if you know Tom, you just laugh at him. But Tom wrote for Malcolm in the Middle. He wrote for Supernormal, and he also wrote, of course, for you comic book geeks. He wrote Dinosaurs for Hire, and so Tom knows a little thing about comedy. Next week we'll be back. What's that?
The Fresh Beat Band. I fell out of my
right.
chair. I was watching that with my kids, and it's like, Tom Mason, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It was an awesome show.
Me and Danko, we were on staff there. We were
that was so awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry,
there you
Roland,
go.
No,
that's
your spiel there. So.
That's quite all right. Next week we're going to be back. We'll be here same bad time, same bad channel, and we're going to do a round robin Q&A. I'm stealing a page from Barb's book a few weeks ago. She did a round robin Q&A, and we're just going to. I'm going to post some questions to these folks who are here, and we're just going to do some answers as we just kind of go around. Be important questions like are hot dogs considered sandwiches? No answers right now.
I was going to say, are you going to ask that question?
I'm going to ask that question, but no answers now. That's for next week.
No, I'm sorry. You opened the door. A hot dog is hot dog is an Alabama taco.
So, Tom and I were on the show on the Wednesday show when we had a.
Well, I'll have to dig up some different questions. So for now, Hank, I'm going to pull you up, and then we're going to go to our. If you have some time, hang out. Pull you up. We'll let you do your thing. I'm going to go to the closing thing, and then you can watch that little blue bar along the bottom, and that'll tell you when we're over. You should be able to see something right here that probably says live.
Mm-hmm.
And that'll tell you when we are not live anymore.
And then we'll see if Roberta hangs through to the end.
Don't pick on Roberta. All right, so here we go. Hank.
I'm Hank from Clover Press. Make mine Silverline.
My name is Ross Ritchie from Boom Studios, and make mine Silverline.